Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today we are back with another recent reads. So these are going to be all the books that I finished at the end of 2025. Now normally the past few years, the month of December, I really use that month to kind of catch up on my reading. I try to catch up on all the books that I wasn't able to get to throughout the rest of the year. And I usually pre-film my end of the year content, so I don't even have to worry about trying to film or edit anything. I can just focus on reading. However, that was not the case in the month of December. I am ashamed to say, but the show Heated Rivalry has taken over my life. That is not a show that I feel like I would have ever watched without the influence of my coworkers, my friends, TikTok. But if you have not heard of this show, I fear you are living under a rock, but it is based off of the romance book Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. It is actually the second book in a series, and it is currently showing on HBO Max. It's only 6 episodes. All 6 have been released, and I have watched them several times at this point. I had never heard of the book. I had never heard of the series. I'm currently reading the book now just because I wanted to read the source material, but that show literally has taken over my life. I did not think that I was going to like it as much as I have. Honestly, I didn't really start to like it until I got to episode 4. That was when I was locked in. Once I got locked in, then I went back and I rewatched it and here we are. So I did not read as much as I normally do. I still have quite a few books to get through, but not nearly as many as I have in the month of December. So I have these kind of separated out. I'm going to talk about some of the arcs that I've read. I have some holiday books that I want to talk about, and then other books that I also read in the month of December. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and start with my holiday books, my winter books, that kind of thing. I have 5 of them. The first one is Good Spirits by B.K. Borson. This is a adult romance, and I actually DNF'd this. I got 148 pages. I stopped at chapter 16. I was just extremely bored throughout the parts that I got through. So in this, we're following this woman, Harriet, and she gets a surprise visit from the ghost of Christmas past, which is Nolan. He claims that he is there to try to help her fix some mistakes from her past. But of course, once they kind of like start working together, I guess, they start developing feelings, and then the story just kind of takes off from there. I did not really care for either of the characters. I wasn't really sold on their romance. It seemed to move pretty quickly to me. And then I just was not sold on Nolan's character like at all. He's supposed to be the ghost of Christmas past, but to me, he wasn't really giving off ghost. He was just really giving off like a man with like magical abilities. Like he's able to just pop up in our house whenever he feels the need to. He can do a little magical things here or there, but he wasn't giving off ghost. And that's kind of what I wanted. I thought he was going to be a ghost, and that just doesn't seem like that's what he is. I just didn't care about where it was going to end up, so I decided to put this one down. So the next book I have here is The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett. This is a adult mystery. So this is a follow-up to The Appeal by Janice Hallett. I actually read that last year around the same time, and so this is a cute little Christmas novella. So if you're unaware of The Appeal, or if you've never heard of it, it's basically a mystery story that's told in just strictly mixed media, and it is the same with this one. So everything's told in like text messages, emails, police transcripts, that kind of thing. And so in this one, we're following pretty much the same characters as we followed in The Appeal. So it starts off with our 2 law students, and they have been tasked with trying to figure out what happened at this play that ended up with a dead Santa Claus. And so we kind of follow them as they're giving all of this information, and they're trying to piece everything together to kind of figure out who killed the Santa Claus. I had a fun time with this one. It definitely has the same vibes of The Appeal, where it's like the first half of the story is you're basically just getting reacclimated to the characters. You're getting introduced to new characters. And then about the halfway point is where the mystery really starts. I found this one to just be fun. I thought parts of it was actually kind of hilarious. I liked the introduction of the new characters. I like seeing some of the old ones. I ended up rating this one 3 stars. I definitely could have taken like a full-length novel over just the story. Personally, I don't think that you need to read The Appeal to actually read this one. Of course, if you're one of those people where you just need to know the backstory, you need to already be familiar with the characters, and sure, pick up The Appeal. But I think you can go in this one kind of blind, and then if you end up liking this one, then I would say go ahead and check out The Appeal. But I thought this one was a good one. Another holiday read I have is The Mistletoe Mystery by Nita Prose. This is another mystery, and if you are unfamiliar with this author, this is actually a novella for their series, The Maid. So the first book in the series is The Maid, then the next book is A Mystery Guest, then you have this one, which is like, I guess, book 2.5, and then there's a third book. I have not read it yet. It's called The Maid's Secret. In this one, we're following our main character, which is Molly the Maid. She is a neurodivergent character. And in this one, we're just following her after a couple of years after the events of what took place in that second book. So she is still the head maid at the Regency. I think it's Regency Grand Hotel. She is living with her boyfriend, and all seems well. She is head over heels for her boyfriend. They are getting ready for Christmas. They are also getting ready for their Secret Santa party at the hotel. And so life is good until she starts to notice that her boyfriend is acting a little strange, and Molly is trying to get to the bottom of it. Now, with this series, I do not read it for the mysteries. I'm actually reading them for Molly's character. I really enjoy her as a character. I like how she thinks about things. I like how she ends up coming to the conclusions that she comes to, even though they are different than how we would think about things. I like her little flashbacks that she has about her grandmother, because in the first book, her grandmother had recently passed, and that's who she was raised by. So she has all of these memories that she unlocks throughout the course of the story, not only in this one, but in the other books as well. And I really liked their relationship. And I just think Molly is just like a wholesome character. Now, in terms of the mystery, it actually didn't start until about 60 pages in, and this is barely over 100 pages. And it was definitely quite predictable, which I kind of think is the point. Like, we know what's happening, and Molly just has to try to figure it out. It is cute, it is festive, and if you're actually trying to read this for a good mystery, you're probably not going to get it. But if you have been reading that series and you do enjoy Molly the Maid, then I would suggest picking this one up. The next book that I have, it is called A Night with Miss Grinch by Lauren Lacey. And this is like a festive, spicy holiday romance. And so in this one, we're following our main character. Her name is Candy Cane. And yes, she is aware of how crazy her name sounds, but her name is Candy Cane. And she works from home basically, and she does a lot of her work at this Black-owned coffee shop. The owner of the coffee shop is Cole Winters. And so over like the last few months, they have kind of been flirting with each other. Like, they're dating, but not really dating. They're together, but not really together. And then all of a sudden a snowstorm hits, and they are both trapped in this coffee shop trying to wait for everything to clear up outside. He actually lives above the coffee shop, so that's where they end up spending their time. Things happen, they get a little closer, definitely a little spicy. This is only 90 pages, so you would definitely be able to get through it in like one sitting. I thought it was cute. It was fun. It delivered on what it was supposed to deliver. There are also some little, fun festive vibes. He likes to cook, so he was cooking a lot of like festive treats. They went outside in the snow and played and made snow angels. The reason why it's called she's called the Grinch is because she is not a fan of the holidays, while he definitely enjoys the holidays, and you kind of get a little bit of backstory on why that is. But yeah, if you are into like spicy adult romance and you just want like a quick little festive read, then I would definitely suggest this one. So my last holiday read is Only for the Holidays by Abiola Bello. This is a young adult romance. And this one follows our two main characters. We have Tia and Quincy. So Quincy, his family is really rich. I think his sister is like a famous actress. They own this farm property type of thing where people can come and like rent rooms and stay. It kind of reminds me of like a bed and breakfast on a farm. And so he has recently gotten out of a relationship. And so then we follow Tia, who is in a relationship, but all of a sudden her boyfriend kind of wants a break. So both of these characters are dealing with some things in their romantic lives. Tia's family, they decide that they are going to spend the Christmas holidays at this farm. And so when they get to the farm, Tia and Quincy, of course, have a immediate attraction to each other, but they're both kind of dealing with their own things. Tia, however, does not want to be on this farm. She is going through it. A lot of mishaps happen to her, which I found to be quite funny. Tia's family learns that every year there is this big winter ball, and this year the farm is like the host of this ball, and in order to go, you need a date. So Quincy is single now, and so he strikes up a deal with Tia. He says that he would like her to be his date in order to make his ex jealous, but Tia only agrees to this so that she could have help sneaking off of the farm at some point to go to her boyfriend slash not boyfriend's birthday party. And so it turns into a fake dating story. And so I thought this one was pretty cute. I actually gave it 4 stars. I liked both of the characters. I liked the progression of their romance. I am a sucker for a fake dating romance, so I was already sold. I did think parts of this was funny, especially like I mentioned before, all of the mishaps that Tia was going through. The poor girl just could not catch a break. I also liked some of the side characters. And yeah, I thought this one was fun and festive. If you are a young adult reader, I would suggest checking this one out. So those are all of my like holiday reads. Now we are gonna go into some of my arcs that I was actually able to get through. Now, one of my goals for 2026 is to actually keep up with my arcs. So far, I've been doing a good job. So I'm hoping that I can keep this momentum going for the rest of the year. But listen, we're only in January, so we will see. So the first arc that I have here is Oxford Blood by Rachel Davis Featherstone. This is actually released in January. I'm not sure when in January, but it's released this month. This is a young adult mystery thriller. And in this one, we're following our main character, Eva. And she and her boyfriend, not boyfriend, George, have really wanted to go to Oxford. And so they actually both get invited to interview week, which I believe to take place in like one of the weeks in December. And so they both get invited to go. And during that week, they're supposed to have a lot of different interviews with like the professors. They're supposed to be able to tour Oxford and the different schools within it. They are staying on campus in the dorms. So they're basically there to check out the college, but also see if they will be accepted. And the first night that they're there, a pretty big secret about George is revealed once he encounters some people that he previously went to school with. And so then the next morning, Eva actually discovers George is dead. And of course, the police are involved. Her own father is someone involved because he's a really like famous detective. And she believes he was murdered. Everybody else believes it was an accident. So also with Oxford, there's this like social media site where people can post their thoughts. It kind of reminds me of like Reddit. And so while this investigation is going on, people are posting their thoughts and you're getting those transcripts throughout the story. And then not only is George dead, but other people are found dead. And then all eyes turn to Eva. I thought this was a fun YA mystery. I like that it takes place at Oxford. So our main character, Eva, she is actually mixed race. And so this story has a lot of commentary on race, diversity within the campus, because you find out that Oxford is trying out this new program where they are trying to get more diverse students to attend the school. And there are a few issues with that Eva definitely has no problems pointing out. There's also the talk around colorism. There is another student that has been invited to interview week. I believe she's mixed race too, but she is a little bit lighter, I think, than Eva. And so there obviously seems to be more favoritism towards her than to Eva. Again, Eva has no problems pointing that out, which is another thing that I liked about this story. Is I really liked Eva. She's very outspoken and she is very determined. And I felt like in the end, this had a pretty solid conclusion. Again, if you like young adult stories, I think this is a good one. And again, it will be released in January. Another arc that I read is Good Intentions by Marissa Walls. Now, this one is not on sale until February 3rd. This is a psychological suspense and it is adult. And so in this one, we're following our main character, Katie. And Katie has been told that her twin sister, Dana, has been involved in a car accident, but unfortunately, by the time Katie has made it to the hospital, her sister Dana has passed away and Katie is devastated. They were extremely close. However, when Katie is at the hospital while they're like in the waiting room awaiting news, she overhears this woman, Morgan, and Morgan has unfortunately lost her son in a freak accident. And Katie has taken a liking to Morgan, and the story just kind of goes off from there. This is a difficult one for me because if I was new to like psychological suspense, psychological thrillers, I think I would have really enjoyed this one. However, I did not really enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. So Katie is a really complex character. She has a lot going on and she is very manipulative, and it doesn't really come off that way in the beginning, but it slowly starts to be revealed throughout the story. And while her intentions seem to be good on the surface, they don't always end up that way. She's very intense and she doesn't really understand boundaries. That's something, again, that's like slowly explored throughout the story. Now, while I was reading this, I kept reading the back of the book because I kept trying to figure out what the point of this is. And this, I found out while reading it, is more of a character-driven story. This is basically just about Katie and how she is dealing with her grief over her sister and her like slow growing obsession over this woman, Morgan. It is interesting. The chapters are really, really short, so it seems faster paced than it actually is, because this to me is kind of a slower paced story. I just kind of wanted more from this. I think that the big twist at the end was supposed to be extremely shocking and jaw-dropping, but it wasn't. Even though I'm not gonna say I guessed what was happening, because I wasn't really guessing anything. I was honestly trying to figure out the point. By the time we got that twist, my initial thought was just, oh. However, I was very intrigued with Katie's character and learning more about her and her dynamics with her twin sister Dana, but I just kind of, I guess I wanted a little bit more plot. So this is a book that I definitely would recommend to newer psychological thriller readers, but if you are very familiar with this type of story, I don't necessarily think that you're gonna get a lot out of it. But if you like a character-driven story, by all means, check this out. Next up, we have The Storm by Rachel Hawkins. This is actually going to be released at the beginning of January. This is a adult mystery. This was a story that on the surface, it doesn't seem like it would be a book that I liked, but I actually really enjoyed this one, and I can definitely see it being a hit or miss for some people. People are either going to really like this or they're not. I don't really think that there's gonna be much in between for this one. So in this one, we're following this woman, Geneva. She is the owner of this like struggling inn. I think it's in Alabama. I'm like 90% sure they're in Alabama. But she owns this inn in a town that has been devastated by hurricanes in the past. And so in one particular hurricane, I think it was 1984, this woman, Lo, is accused of murdering the man that she was having an affair with. And he was a political figure. So it was a huge huge news story. And she ended up being acquitted of that murder, blaming his death on the hurricane that took place in 1984. So now we fast forward to Geneva and her inn, and this journalist says that he wants to rent a room with Lo because he wants to help her write her memoir over what really happened during that hurricane. Over the course of the story, Geneva is kind of getting familiar and learning about Lo slowly. And she's also kind of learning about this journalist and his intentions for wanting to help Lo write this story. But also through the story, we are getting flashbacks to the different hurricanes. Once you're getting these flashbacks of these different hurricanes, they're actually kind of tying back to our current story. Also in present day, we are gearing up for a hurricane that is brewing. It's coming. And so each chapter is kind of like a countdown of how many days out we are before this hurricane hits. I had a good time with this one. I really enjoyed the flashbacks to the other hurricanes. I especially liked them once I started to figure out what actually was going on. I liked the small reveals that we got throughout the story because I didn't really guess any of them. I also liked the conclusion of the story. I liked where we actually ended up. I liked how there was tension in regards to this new hurricane that was brewing. We also got excerpts from this book that the journalist was writing. And so we're also getting more information into Lo and what actually happened to her with this man that she was sleeping with, because she was much younger than him and he was older. And like I said, he was like this political figure, and so it's like a little bit of drama going on with that. And so I enjoyed this one. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. People are either gonna love it or they're gonna hate this one. I quite enjoyed it. So then the last arc that I read that will also be released in January, this is book 11 in the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. This is Through the Gates of Garnet and Gold, and this is a portal fantasy. And this one is Nancy's story. We've seen Nancy in previous books, but this one is specifically focused on her in the world that she is transported in, which is the halls of the dead. And basically everybody that is in this world, they are statues, and she is basically a statue. So in the halls of the dead, Nancy and the other statues, like, they change positions every few hours, and she really enjoys that, and she likes the act of being still. But unfortunately, some of the statues are starting to die, so she ends up going back to the Wayward School for Children, and she reunites with some of her old friends and classmates, and they agree to go back to her world so they can figure out who is killing off the statues. I gave this 2 stars. Honestly, I think it might be time to wrap this series up. I think we should be done at this point. This was probably the most uninteresting world that we have been to thus far. I liked Nancy as a character, but I did not need to see her again. I actually enjoyed some of the side characters more, especially Sumi. Sumi is hilarious. So I will, of course, continue to pick up anything that involves her, but I don't think we actually needed this one. Normally in these stories, you kind of have a takeaway. There's some message, something to learn. But in this one, outside of I don't know, the power of friendship, I didn't get anything out of it. I don't really know what the takeaway was supposed to be. And these stories are short. They're like short novellas. And so I actually was approved for a audio copy through NetGalley. And it's only 4.5 hours. And I felt like it took me days to get through that. I had to finally force myself to finish it. It was just boring. It was slow. It was uninteresting. I don't know. I think we've had enough. I think we need to do something else. But yeah, this one's released in January. If these are books that you are looking forward to, then check this one out. I only have 3 more books to talk about. These are books that didn't fit into the other 2 categories, so we're going to chat about them now. So the first one is I'm Medusa by Anya Gray. This is a Medusa retelling, and I was so excited about this one. I am very fascinated with the mythological creature Medusa, and so I was excited that we were going to get a story just focused on Medusa. However, this didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to. So in this, we're following our main character, Medi, short for Medusa, and she's like 17 years old, and her family, her mother and father are like sea gods. And so they are all immortal, but Medi is mortal. And so she's just living her life. There is a situation that happens that catches the attention of Athena. And so Athena takes a liking to Medi and invites her back to Athens, where Medi and a group of other girls will be in training to potentially become an alkalite. So things happen while Medi is trying to become an alkalite. At a certain point in the story, she becomes Medusa. That's all that I'm going to say because I really don't want to spoil it, but I think we can all come to the conclusion that she's going to become Medusa. I gave this one 2 stars because I wanted this story to be so much darker than it was. It's YA, but there are some adult themes in it, but everything just kind of felt surface level. And even though it is YA, I do think that the author could have gone a little bit darker, especially when we're talking about the character of Medusa, who was already a dark character. I feel like we spent a lot of time with Medi in this alkalite training, and I don't feel like that should have been the primary focus of the story, and that's what it felt like. Almost to the point that I kept wondering, when are we going to see her as Medusa? And it literally comes in the last like 1/3 of the story, and then it feels super rushed. I cannot lie, I was really disappointed in this one. And I seen the physical copies of these because I actually read this as an ARC. This was released back in November, but I read it as an ARC. I got it from NetGalley, and I was really hoping that I was gonna like it because the edition for this book is so gorgeous. It is a beautiful edition of a book, but I just did not like it. I'm not really sure how other people are feeling about it. I haven't really seen a lot of people pick this up, but for me, it just did not work. I don't know, I keep saying it, but I just wanted a darker story, and that's not what this is. The next one that I have here is Alice Feeney's His and Hers. This is a adult mystery. This has been on my TBR for a long time, and I decided to pick it up now because Netflix has adapted this. I think it's a movie. I could be wrong. It could be a show. Whatever it is, I'm excited for it. So in this one, I'm going to be really vague about the details, but this woman ends up dead, and Anna, who is a newscaster, decides that she is going to look into this murder. And then we follow this detective who is also investigating this murder, and throughout the story you learn that both Anna and this detective may or may not have some connections to this woman that was murdered. I thought this was fine. I gave this 3 stars. The one thing that I will say about Alice Feeney in her books, for all of the ones that I've read, because I'm still trying to work my way through her backlist, I like that she gives us like these little reveals throughout the story. It makes me want to keep reading, and I found myself having that same feeling with this book. This is a little dark compared to her other stories that I've read. It is a little gruesome. I was not expecting any of that, but I will say I just was not really sold on the conclusion. This is another book where I feel like the ending was supposed to be probably this jaw-dropping moment, and I just felt like, I didn't necessarily see that coming, but I'm not sure I really buy it either. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out on the screen, but overall I thought this was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I'm still going to continue on with Alice Feeney's work. The last book that I have that I want to talk about, it was also kind of giving winter vibes, but well, at least the cover was, but that's not what this is. So this is Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. This is a adult mystery. This is one of her older titles. This is another author where I have been slowly trying to work through their backlist. So in this one, we're following a few different characters. One of the main characters that we follow is this girl named Sapphire. And Sapphire had a traumatic event happen to her. She's in therapy and then she goes missing. So then we start following this one woman. I forget her name. I think her name is Kate. Yeah, Kate. And Kate is married to Sapphire's therapist. And then we follow this man that lives across the street from Kate and the therapist, and he's a little creepy guy. He is like the neighborhood pervert, for lack of a better word. And so all of these characters are kind of wrapped up into the disappearance of Sapphire. I gave this one 3 stars. Definitely not the worst thing that I've read by Lisa Jewell, but definitely not my favorite either. I have learned as I'm slowly working my way through her backlist that I have been liking her newer stuff as opposed to her older stuff. I found this one to be okay. The pacing was okay. I wasn't really that invested in any of the characters. I wasn't shocked with where the story went. Actually, I'm still not even sure I liked where the story went. I don't know. I just felt like this was literally the definition of fine. This was just fine. I kind of wanted more from this. Not really sure what more I wanted, but I wanted more than what we got. So yeah, this was fine. Just like with Alice Feeney, I'm going to continue to work through Lisa Jewell's backlist. Those are all of the books that I have to share with you guys. If you have read any of these, please let me know your thoughts down below. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.